Hey there, it's me, Nate, and today I'm going to be doing another book review. This time we're going to be talking about Elric of Melniboné by Michael Moorcock. Now, just to be clear on how I'm going to be doing this, so this right here is the omnibus edition, which this edition contains 4 of Michael Moorcock's Elric books out of his greater Elric Saga. And so instead of reviewing this whole omnibus, I'm just going to be reviewing one book at a time. So I'm going to be reviewing the actual book in this omnibus that is called Elric of Melniboné. And Elric of Melniboné is not the first Elric book or story, but it is, at the time of this edition, was the first chronologically in Michael Moorcock's preferred order, and so that's what I'm starting with, because this series of editions, I think this was from Saga Press. These omnibus editions, they are in Michael Moorcock's preferred reading order for readers who want to get in. So if you're interested in Elric, I would recommend you picking up these editions. Because they shouldn't be too hard to find. I got this on Amazon because I think they started coming out around 2021 or 2022. But all of that aside, so Elric of Melniboné, the first book, it's a pretty short book. In this edition, it's like 160 pages. So I think if you got it like as a standalone version, probably be like 200. So it's a really short, quick book that you can get through in a day or two. Now, Elric of Melniboné is a classic like sword and sorcery fantasy book, in the vein of stuff like Conan or Solomon Kane, like Robert E. Howard type sword and sorcery stories. But there are, instead of it just being a bunch of short stories, there are a lot more like novel and like novella length books in the Elric Saga that Michael Moorcock has written. And Elric of Melniboné is about the titular Elric. He is the current emperor of the island kind of kingdom of Melniboné, which is also called the Dragon Isle. And he is like I said, he's the current emperor of Melniboné. And at one point, the Melniboné ruled over the entire world. And they had like this like dynasty that ruled over the entire world for like 10,000 years. But in like the last few centuries, their power and their technology and their magic has like greatly dwindled. And now basically they only rule over the island nation itself, and all of the other like countries and continents of the world have their own kingdoms, which the Melnibonians refer to them as the Young Kingdoms, since they consider them, comparatively to Melniboné, they are young kingdoms, since they've only been around for a couple hundred years. And Elric, well, first, before I get into like Elric as a character, I need to talk about like Melniboné and like the culture of the Melnibonians. They are kind of not exactly sadistic, but they are a culture that very much places like taking pleasure and just doing things above all else. Like they see no issue with like killing enemies or killing other people from the Young Kingdoms. At times, they will even partake in like cannibalism or have slaves or like take human slaves and like mutilate them so they can sing better at their feast and whatnot. So they are like this kind of like culture of debauchery and grandeur. And even though Melniboné has lost a lot of its power, in the recent centuries, they still see themselves as like the pinnacle of the world, of the people of this world. That they see themselves as so much higher than the people of the Young Kingdom. And contrasting this, we have Elric, who, as the current emperor, it has a kind of mixed reception with the people of Melniboné. Elric, as a youth, it was quite sickly, and so even though he is a warrior and a swordsman, he can fight. He has to take drugs and like potions and stuff to sustain himself. To sustain himself, if I can speak. And since he was so sickly, he spent so much of his time reading. And as he was reading and going through his studies, he developed this sense of morality and conscience that isn't really found in his fellow Melnibonians. And so he thinks he has this huge inner conflict that whether or not Melnibonian culture is right, whether their people should be this way. And because of this, and because almost of his like disdain for the traditions and rituals of his people, he is almost seen as this kind of outsider, this like nonconformist among his people. And so even though he is their emperor and they treat him with the respect that station deserves, they have very much like second, like inner thoughts about him and about how he is different from them. And contrasting, well, not really contrasting, but opposing Elric is Irkun, who is Elric's cousin. And Irkun wants to take the throne for himself. He doesn't think Elric is fit to have the throne. He doesn't think that Elric is a true Melnibonian. He thinks that he is like too weak and too soft, and he is too burdened by this conscience, this concept that the other Melnibonians don't understand. Irkun sees this all as signs that Elric isn't fit to be emperor, and also Irkun wouldn't mind having the power and the station of emperor for himself. So Irkun wants to supplant Elric as the ruler of Melniboné. And then also in the midst of this, Elric has this like relationship with Cimmeril, who is Irkun's sister, and they are lovers. There is incest in this story, if that does bother you. Just be forewarned. And that's not like a spoiler or anything. It's like very clear, like in the first like chapter or two, that Elric and Cimmeril are together. And so Cimmeril, and Elric are in love with each other. And while Cimmeril can sympathize that Elric has like these burdens of conscience, she doesn't really understand his feelings, about it herself. And Irkun wants to control Cimmeril as well. He desires her himself. So you have, this like kind of like struggle for power between Irkun and Elric, and also Irkun has this desire for Cimmeril. So he just wants to take everything that Elric has, and that's like kind of like the main struggle of this first book of the Elric Saga. And so, that's like kind of like mostly I want to say about like the main plot of the story. I don't want to, because like I said, it's a very short book. It's only like 160 pages, so I can't go too much into detail. But there are like other things I want to talk about though, besides the plot. So, after like things have occurred, and as Elric is like going across like the world in the story, you see things like the technology and magic of this world. There's technology that the Melnibonians have that is like dwindling because they have lost like the knowledge and mastery of how to like recreate it, which is like another sign of like their dwindling power and like their dwindling authority in this world that is becoming more and more under the rule of the young kingdoms. You see like their magic also, they used to be able to talk to and communicate with the gods, the lords of chaos, and they have lost, you know, the means and knowledge to do so. But as Elric, you know, goes through this, he meets across like spirits and gods and elementals, and how he is being controlled by fate and destiny, and how, you know, how in some ways he is being manipulated, but in some ways he is making his own choices, and how that affects himself, the people around him that he cares about, and, you know, the people of Melniboné itself. And and of course, you know, it's on all the covers pretty much, and you can't really talk, you know, not talk about it. But there are these two magical swords. There is Stormblade and Mornbringer? No, it's Stormbringer, and I forgot the other one. Mornblade? I don't know. I messed it up. Anyway, but there's Stormbringer, which is like this cursed black sword, and how that all figures into this story, you know, with Elric and like the people that Elric meets along the way. So it's a very interesting story. It's not super thematically deep, like beyond Elric and like his like kind of like struggles with things like, you know, morality and his conscience. You know, there's not anything like thematically deeper than that, but there is a lot of interesting things. Like there's like some interesting sections with like horror when he's like confronting and fighting against like these different monsters, and he's talking to like these like gods and spirits. And I had heard, or I think I was like reading an article once, and Michael Moorcock, he says that he doesn't really consider himself to be a great writer, but he has good ideas. And I disagree, because while it's not like the best I've ever read, I think there are some sections of this story where his prose is really great. Like there's a section, I think in the first chapter, where he is describing the appearance. Well, he's describing Elric's appearance, and the prose there is really great. Like he has a really great turn of phrase, and it's really beautiful and descriptive. Like you really get even if you couldn't see the cover of the book, you can get like a real visual picture of what Elric looks like as he's sitting upon his throne in his courtroom, in his throne room. And so I think Michael Moorcock, you know, underestimates himself a bit. But yeah, I think this first Elric story, this first book is really just a really good time, and that's what I would give it. I would give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's a really good, solid time. It's a really good introduction to Elric as a character, because I can see why Moorcock says to start here, because it introduces you to Elric. It tells you about like the world. It tells you about, you know, a lot of like, you know, Irkun and a lot of the other like secondary characters, and like, you know, it sets up all the other Elric stories that are going to follow. So yeah, definitely, if you are interested in Elric, I would start here. Oh, one other thing I forgot to talk about. The influence of Elric. So as you can see here, Elric is... Hold on, let me get the back. Yeah. So Elric is like this pale character with like this, you know, black armor, this black sword, like the white hair. And so in a lot of ways, Elric is like the kind of one of like the OG kind of like fantasy dark heroes. he's inspiration for characters like Geralt in terms of like visual design, like the pale skin, the white hair. I wouldn't be surprised if you're a video game fan, if they take a lot of inspiration for Alucard in the Castlevania games from Elric, and at least in terms of visuals. And Elric, you know, like I said before, he does struggle with his issues of morality and conscience, but he's like not afraid to like torture or kill people if in the end it serves his means. So he is not like some completely like goody two shoes character surrounded by people of like, you know, with no morality. Like he struggles, but at the end he does like do dark things to get done what he needs to. But yeah, so definitely, if you're interested in Elric or like some classic sword and sorcery fiction, I would definitely check it out. Also, if you want something different from like a typical like modern fantasy story, I would definitely check this out, because after the Poppy War, I read this and it was like really refreshing to read this. But yeah, sorry. If you have any thoughts or anything about Elric, whether you've read any of the Elric stories or anything like that, or some of Michael Moorcock's other books, comment down below. And if you could, like this video and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, have a good day.